Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Kadar Bun, GMS Gulf Coast. I'd like to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors are given unto the apostle elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I also like to send a shalom to the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, the scattered bird, or the speckled bird, Salakia, scattered throughout the four winds of planet Earth, north, south, east, and west. I also like to send a shalom to the various GMS camps, heads and elders. Last but not least, I would like to send a shalom to any of you Akim out on the highways and hedges, bringing forth this 100% truth with all truth and sincerity, walking in one body and one spirit in Yahweh Shai, as taught to us all by the apostle elders of Great Millstone. To you all, shalom. Just laying backing off a video I did last night. Or was it last night? It might have been today. I don't know. Anyway, off the last video I did, he's getting sloppy, you know. And it's lucky for me using the phrase he, because according to the scriptures, you know, the Lord likened the nation of Israel like to a comely and delicate woman, you know. In fact, let me grab it real quick, just real quick. Real quick, I'm opening up a tab on another phone here. This is Jeremiah 6 and verse 2, and it reads, I have likened the daughter of Zion. That's talking about the nation of Israel, of Jerusalem, you know. And Israel, the nation of Israel, or the people of Jerusalem, are a people before they are a place, because they're scattered. So when you see that, you know, it's speaking about it's talking about the nation of Israel. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman, a beautiful and delicate woman. So, you know, the nations are sometimes referred to in a feminine sense. Thus, you know, America is referred to in a feminine sense, you know. That's why they have Lady Liberty out there off the coast of New York. But we're revisiting history. We're stepping into the footsteps in the playbook of Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and some of the politics he liked to play when he's trying to push an agenda. Now, I said in the last video I did, you know, he's getting sloppy, which he is, you know. It's as though he's just saying, you know, he's throwing his hands up in the air, you know, and say, the hell with it, you know, because he's doing things in such a disorderly manner, which in his eyes they are orderly, but it's disorderly because they're coming few and the deception that he's putting out there is coming back to back. He usually stretches it out, but since he's working with a shorter time period, he's just throwing all caution to the wind, as you know, for lack of better words, and he's pushing his narrative. There's something coming down the pipe very, very soon. And the actions of the leaders of America, the heads of states over here, is showing that they have a very nervous energy about themselves because they have gotten very, very sloppy. This is a no-brainer. You know, you can go as far as back, I think, to 2003, right here. As you see, that's deceased Colin Powell. I believe he was the head of Secretary of State, first so-called African-American head of state. And in the next video, you're going to have Lloyd Austin III, Lloyd J. Austin III, 28th U.S. Secretary of Defense. And the same, they have in the same, they have a commonality, him and the late Colin Powell. They're the first of their race in each one of these positions. Colin Powell was the U.S. Secretary of State, and he was a general, ex-general, and the new the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd J. Austin III. He also was a general, you know, and Esau is pushing out his agenda and using Jake because overall, Jake supposedly has a more inviting, trustworthy aura about himself. But like I said, this has gotten beyond sloppy. So you're trying to throw Jake out there to push your agenda as though the other nations don't know that you got your hand in Jake back. Literally scripting out what he should be saying. So needless to say that this is played out. This is not working. It is failing miserably on the world stage and dealing with these other world leaders and whatnot. It's a no-go. But on the flip side, the American public, by and large, and I dare to say this, are just a nation of dummies. I mean, you can't put it no plainer than that. It's just a nation of dummies. If you look at what's going on in Australia, and you see what's going on in France, and you see what's going on in Germany, and these are also called Caucasian or white nations, and their people are staging protests and out there fighting with the police and whatnot. You understand? And no, by any means, I'm not advocating any violence or no uprising or none of that. I'm just stating the facts. Lord willing, this be edifying if I hadn't already said that. And another thing, these clips that I'm using, as you see, this is NBC News. This is on any cable provider. You have Sparklight, Cox, whatever cable provider you have. These clips are there. So my channel is not monetized. I don't get nothing, no kickback or nothing. This is all used to educate the subscribers. That's it. Point blank period. I own none of this, and I not take ownership to none of this. Just use to enlighten. Now, having said that, the U.S. Public, by and large, is just a nation of dummies, living to please the flesh. Living to please the flesh. Real quick. There's a saying, because that's all these Americans live for is pleasure. That's it. You can just about do anything. These world leaders have figured out what makes these people tick, and they're just living zombies for the most part. Dead from the neck up. You give them sports, you give them restaurants, you give them shopping opportunities. You give them reality shows. You give them American Idol, Masked Singer. You give them World Star. You give them OnlyFans, a whole plethora of different things, and these people are dead from the neck up, and they can run these scams. But it's not the same nation. Worldwide. Real quick scripture. This is 1 Timothy 5 and verse 6, and it reads, "But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth." And that's basically the sums it up for Americans by and large, the citizens of America. Well, again, but she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. So these people are already dead for the most part. They're going to be the last to realize. They're going to be the last to recognize. They're going to be the last to respond. They're going to be the last. Everybody else, for the most part, is waking up worldwide, but you Americans don't see the games that your world leaders, or in particular, your heads of state are running on you. They're going to get you in a whole mess of bull. They're going to send your children, your sons and your daughters off into a war that has already been pre-planned for them, because this is all they're doing, beating the drums of war. But I want to bring in the old playbook how they did in '03 and how they're doing in present day. So let me stop rambling and let it play.
I cannot tell you everything that we know, but what I can share with you, when combined with what all of us have learned over the years, is deeply troubling. What you will see is an accumulation of facts and disturbing patterns of behavior. The facts in Iraq's behavior demonstrate that Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community. Indeed, the facts and Iraq's behavior show that Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction. None of this should come as a surprise to any of us. Terrorism has been a tool used by Saddam for decades. Saddam was a supporter of terrorism long before these terrorist networks had a name. And this support continues. The nexus of poisons and terror is new. The nexus of Iraq and terror is old. The combination is lethal. With this track record, Iraqi denials of supporting terrorism.
With this track record, hey, and let me add one more point. Saddam is a creation of the United States. When you go back into this history, Saddam was set in power by the United States by bringing down one of Saddam's uncles. He is a creation of the CIA. Do your history. This is what they do. And guess what they do? They use Jake to bring it out, to bring out all their lies. Just like in that movie, what was the name of that movie? Samuel Wilson played in it, the actor Samuel Williams, commonly known as Sam Williams. What was the name of that movie? Outside the Wire. There was a scene in the movie where he was talking to a soldier, because he was a captain. And he said, "You want to know why they made this weapon to look like me? Because I represent peace, calm, and, all that is righteousness. You know what I'm saying? I represent that." You understand? When the world sees Esau, by and large, you know what I'm saying, and not be in awe about this man and his leopard persona, they see him for what he is. You understand? That's why they have to set Jacob to go up here and lie for them. But these lies have played themselves out. These are just blatant lies, cooked up schemes. They're falling flat on their face when it's coming to the world community, by and large. It's not working anymore. So, namely, it's just used to convince the American public to stand behind what the United States is up to, the agenda of the United States. Because, like I say, it's at the point now they're like, oh, well, just throw their hands in there. As long as we got our countrymen on our side, and hey, that's enough. I'm going to let a few more minutes of this play, and then I'm going to go to my last video.
Take their place alongside the other networks had a name. And this support continues. The nexus of poisons and terror is new. The nexus of Iraq and terror is old. The combination is lethal. With this track record, Iraqi denials of supporting terrorism take their place alongside the other Iraqi denials of weapons of mass destruction. It is all a web of lies. When we confront a regime that harbors ambitions for regional...
It's all a web of lies. This is projection at its best. You understand? And I think I brought that terminology out once before. Projection is just projecting on someone else the dislikes and the mishaps of oneself onto another. And so by using these high public officials, federal officials, they're projecting onto the people that they want to invade, or they want to make war with, or they want to steal resources from, or whatever the case may be. Then they project onto them the same characteristics that they have themselves. This is old. They're even using words like track records. You know what I'm talking about? This is old. There's nothing new under the sun. A few more minutes, and like I said, I'm going to go to the next clip.
Other Iraqi denials of weapons of mass destruction. It is all a web of lies. When we confront a regime that harbors ambitions for regional domination, hides weapons of mass destruction, and provides haven and active support for terrorists, we are not confronting the past. We are confronting the present. And unless we act, we are confronting an even more frightening future. My friends, this has been a long and a detailed presentation, and I thank you for your patience, but there's one more subject that I would like to touch on briefly, and it should be a subject of deep and continuing concern to this council: Saddam Hussein's violations of human rights. Underlying all that I have said, underlying all the facts and the patterns of behavior that I have identified, is Saddam Hussein's contempt for the will of this council, his contempt for the truth, and most damning of all, his utter contempt for human life. Saddam Hussein's use of mustard and nerve gas against the Kurds in 1988 was one of the 20th century's most horrible atrocities. 5,000 men, women, and children died. His campaign against the Kurds from 1987 to 89 included mass summary executions, disappearances, arbitrary jailing, ethnic cleansing, and the destruction of some 2,000 villages. He has also conducted ethnic cleansing against the Shia Iraqis and the Marsh Arabs, whose culture has flourished for more than a millennium. Saddam Hussein's police state ruthlessly eliminates anyone who dares to dissent. Iraq has more forced disappearance cases than any other country. Tens of thousands of people were reported missing in the past decade.
Now, having all that information, having all this evidence against Iraq, why at that point in time, why did it take them 20 some odd, let me see, he took control of Iraq in the mid 70s. I want to say around about 74, somewhere around there. It was early 70s, you understand, when they propped him up. Because they pulled a coup in Iraq and propped him up. Do your research. Now, this is in 2003. Why did it take all of about 40 years almost? You know, I'm talking about 30 years or so. You know, a little over 30 years to invade the small country of Iraq. Because when they did it in a day's time. They overwhelmed his forces. Why did it take so long? Because they propped him up. They set all that up. You understand? When they invaded Iraq, they got pallets and pallets of $100 bills out of those palaces that Saddam has over there. And those palaces, from the information I've learned, some of them stretch miles, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards, you understand? And those underground tunnels down there, they got pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets of $100 bills. Any of you, Jake, that deal with this man, this is what he does. He keeps the information, so when he's done using you up, then he brings back all the evidence against you, just like they did against Bill Cosby and any other of these entertainers and celebrities and whatnot. They do the same thing. It's the same old playbook. Anyway, let's go to real quick. Let's go to let's go to history real quick. Okay, World War III update. More words of war. GMS News. I hope the brother don't mind me using this clip.
The Russians say that they are withdrawing some of those forces now. The Russians say that they are withdrawing.
Now, this is your new Colin Powell. This is your new stage puppet. Proud to be an American. He's proud to. You know, and I read from the old playbook. He was in the military during the time of the war on terrorism. He was there. He knows the ins and outs. He knows the lies and whatnot. He chose to turn a blind eye because somewhere down the trough he was going to be given a position. None of this is by mistake. You understand? And his name, by the way, goes in his first name, Lord. It goes into the meaning gray, or gray head, or white, depending on what sect of depending on how it is spelled. and what the lingo is at the particular time. But his name goes into holy during the medieval period, or holiness. So none of this by mistake, you understand? General Lord J. Austin III was chosen because he was holy. That's what his name meant, holiness. Understand? Esau Edom doesn't do anything on no spare the moment. That's not how they roll. You know, that's just not how they roll. This is your new Colin Powell, bringing forth more propaganda that, quite frankly, is just downright just shabby. It's real shabby, you know. It's like a mob gang put this together. No real infrastructure, no real intent to try to hide what they're really trying to do, because really the time has run out and they ain't got time for all that no more. So, you know, going on the behavior, going on the actions of how they're doing things in such a loosely and sloppy manner, you can expect down the road very, very soon some terrible things about to happen, because this man is disregarded doing things in such a way where it's hard to pull the string back to them. It's obvious that it's them now. But anyway, let me let this play.
Some of those forces now that exercises are complete, but we don't see that. Quite the contrary, we see them add to the more than 150,000 troops that they already have arrayed along that border, even in the last couple of days. We see some of those troops inch closer to that border. We see them fly in more combat and support aircraft. We see them sharpen their readiness in the Black Sea. We even see them stocking up their blood supplies. You know, I was a soldier myself not that long ago, and I know firsthand that you don't do these sort of things for no reason. And you certainly don't do them if you're getting ready to pack up and go home. So we and our allies will stay vigilant. We will watch for the so-called false flag operations, where Russia manufactures a dramatic event to justify an attack, a play that we've seen them run in the past. And we will continue to explore ways to enhance our readiness, as the United States and others have done with additional troop deployments to NATO's eastern flank. And we will closely match Russian words to Russian deeds, what they say to what they actually do. Of course, one thing that Mr. Putin says he wants to do is to engage in more dialogue. And as we have said all along, we would welcome that. We believe there's still time and space for diplomacy to work, and we are in lockstep with our allies and partners towards that end. A peaceful outcome that respects Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity represents the best outcome for Ukraine, to be sure, but also for Russia and the Russian people. If Mr. Putin is serious about achieving that sort of outcome, he will find in the United States and in this alliance no better or more serious interlocutor. And if he's not, as his deeds thus far tend to indicate, it will be clear to the entire world that he started a war with diplomatic options left on the table. It will be Mr. Putin who will bear the responsibility for the suffering and the immense sacrifice that ensues. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, this business of national security. I joined the United States Army in the middle of the Cold War, and I have served and fought alongside NATO allies for the better part of my adult life. But I can honestly say that I have never seen the alliance more relevant and more united and more resolute than I see it today. Mr. Putin says that he doesn't want a strong NATO on his western flank. He's getting exactly that. How strong NATO on his western flank? He's getting exactly that. How soon?
Hey, that goes without saying. That goes without saying. That goes without saying. You know, he's been doing this a long time, you see. A long time. Well, like I said, that's your new Colin Powell. I want to pull out a few scripts real quick, just edify. We're dealing with the councils. This is Acts 4:20. And it says, and this is dealing during the time of King David. Now, but we're gonna liken this on to Esau, Edom today. You know, this is Acts 4:26. It says, the kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against Hamashiach Yahushua. And that's basically what it's going to all entail, is how it's going to play out. They're beefing up and buffing up at one another, putting a stick on one another's shoulders. You know, especially United States, talking about how united the NATO and the United States are. That's a lie. That's a lie. We've seen in previous weeks leading up to today, leading up to right now, present day, that they're not on board. You know, France has always been open to dialogue with Russia. The Germans have been open to dialogue with Russia. Even the country that is at question, Ukraine, is at dialogue with Russia. Because guess what? Russia holds all the cards over there in the middle, in that region, as far as the natural resources are concerned. So it leads one to believe, to think, what is this really about? You understand? What is this really about? You know? But when they hold the cards to how your home would be heated, you know, how your vehicles will be powered, it's because you're still running on fossil fuel, then you just can't sit up there and pick a side like that. You know, you got to be kind of lukewarm or ambiguous at best. What side you gonna join? So he just sat up there and told a bald-faced lie about how tight they are. You know, that's a lie. Because guess what? You know, like I say, Russia holds most of the cards over there in that area, and everybody's dealing with Russia, as far as for the most part, as far as the natural resources is concerned, all the way down to what is that? Iraq down there, Iran, the Suez, not Suez, but what was that? The Gulf of. It escapes me right now, but they've been trying to run a pipeline, Russia and those European nations over there, and U.S. is just mad. They upset. They got the panties in a bunch. They were about to crash this economy. They're about to crash their own dollar so that they can move to the next phase. You understand? Before they allow Russia or China to get the rings of power, which they're not going to get, but this is how they think. They will move to the next phase and crash their economy. Therefore, this skirmish with Russia and China and all the ones that don't want to go along, don't want to play jacks with them anymore, they can blame it on them when they crash their economy. Because now, mind you, United States is never at fault of anything. So when they do decide to crash the dollar, because that's coming very, very soon, then it's going to be on the fault of Russia now. Watch. Because they're blaming everything on them right now. And it's coming out that they're lying, you know, and the Russians are proving that this is a lie. But ultimately, the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to shut all this down. This is Acts 4:26, and it reads, the kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord, Yahweh, and against Hamashiach. Verse 27, for of a truth against thy holy child Hamashiach, whom thou hast anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate, with the Gentiles and the people of Israel were gathered together. And, and this is just going into, well, that was irrelevant. I didn't even need to do that right there. But it's just showing you that, later on it's going to tell you that, that the Lord, Yahweh, had given the power onto these people to do the things that they've done. You understand? And therefore, things will be done in the Lord's time frame. That's all this is about. It's not about what they want and this, that, and the third. It's about what the Lord has already prophesied, has already ordained. Point blank period. As in your counsel for to happen. And I'm going to read verse 28. And it reads, for to do whatsoever thy hand and thy counsel determine before to be done. And basically you're seeing that this is a playbook. This is a strategy that the U.S. was going to use, and they're hell-bent on using it regardless of how the tide has turned against them. They're just going to ride it out, As obvious as it is that they're the antagonists, they're going to play it. They're going to play dumb. They're going to play as though, they on the right side of this, and they're going to ride it out. There's no turning back now. That's the mindset of these Edomites in the West. There's no turning back now. They're full-fledged to their NWO. They're full-fledged. They wide open to it. And just as they're about to reach out there and grab it, the Most High Yahweh Shai, just when they're reaching out to grab it, and it just seems right in their grasp, this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to close out with this. Because it was just really just laying back off the video earlier I did. Let's see. This is Job 20. Let's go straight to the point. Because they so blindly, they're blindly running into a future that is destruction for them. They're blindly running into it, thinking that what they have plotted and planned throughout the centuries, throughout the generations, they're actually going to achieve it. But they're blind. They're blind in their power and their proud and pompous nature. They're just blind. That's all it is. That's all that is. They're prisoners of hope, of their own deceitfulness. You know what I'm saying? They've been deceived. They've been deceived. This is Job 20 and verse 23, and I'm going to get straight. No, let me start at verse 21. And it reads, there shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. Verse 22, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. And this is pretty much what they're in. They're in straits right now. They're in time. They're in a period of difficulty because see, they can't get these other European nations in line, lockstep, on code. You know what I'm talking about? They can't. So they just got to play it like that's the case. No matter how much comes out about Ukraine, in opposition to the U.S. and what they're saying, no matter how much it comes out that Germany is in opposition to what the U.S. and what they're saying, no matter how much France come out in opposition to what the U.S. is saying, and so forth and so on, the United States say, guess what? We're going to stick to the playbook and play as though we don't even hear what they're saying, and we're just going to keep pushing this narrative. They are damn delusional. And they're sitting there talking puppets out there. They're new Colin Powell out there to sell, because it worked for them in the past to push war. It worked for them in the past, and they expect the same thing now. And it's gonna happen, not because they want it, because the Most High do. Verse 22, and in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of his wicked, of the wicked, Slakia, shall come upon him. Verse 23, when he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So they're not going to achieve what they're seeking. They're not going to achieve it. They're not going to achieve it. Not whatsoever. Real quick. Real quick. Because I made a statement that says he's deceiving himself. Real quick. Let's go real quick. We're going to close out with this. Because he's just deceiving himself. And any of these other nations think they got next. You just deceiving yourself. And we're going to prove it. This is Job 12. And all this belongs to the Lord. This is Job 12, and I'm going to begin at I'm going to start at verse 14. Behold, he breaketh down, and it cannot be built again. Now, who is that? Who break it down and it can't be built again? Because it can't be talking about the Russian breaking it down and America can't build it again, or America break it down and the Russians can't build it again. We've seen throughout history, throughout their wars, especially the Second World War, this whole cities were just tore the hell up. Now you look at them to present day, you can't even tell that there was a war there. So it's not talking about none of these Edomites. It's talking about the Lord. Behold, he breaketh down, and it cannot be built again. It's talking about the Lord. Hey, that's talking about America, really. You know, we're gonna flip this and put that jacket on America. When the Most High, it was built up by the labor of the northern nations, like of the southern nation mainly. You understand? Yes. And here in the tail end, you got the northern nation, primarily Issachar, so-called Mexicans. You know, building this place up, but the Most High they're gonna turn this place into one gigantic desert, and there ain't nothing gonna be built over here again. So it's talking about the Lord. Yeah, when he breaketh it down, it can't be built again. That's talking about the Lord, Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua. He shut up a man, and there can be no opening. Behold, he withhold the waters, and they dry up. And the river Euphrates, if you check out the geography over there, that river is drying up, and that's prophecy as well. Who could do that? The Lord. Behold, he withholdeth the waters, and they dry up. Also, he sendeth them out, and they overturn the earth. Verse 16, with him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. So this man is deceiving himself. Russia is deceiving themselves. China is deceiving themselves. All over there with Project China, all in Egypt. I mean, not Egypt, in Africa and whatnot. We got these projects going all over the world. So you Moabs, you so-called Chinese. You people get ready for slavery. That's what you got next. And you're being deceived. You deceive yourself. The Most High has you in a trick bag. You ain't got next. None of you got next. Y'all got destruction. That's what y'all got. And Yahushua, the Son of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, gonna come back and gonna clean y'all up like a street sweeper. You got next. You people are delusional. Lord willing, it was edifying. I'd like to give all praise, honor to the Most High Yahweh and His only begotten Son, Yahushua. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.